So we kiss occasionally.
Not occasionally, all the time. You're going to designate one of our closets as a hookup zone. One for each base, no homers.
Welcome back to my channel. My name is Icy2, and if you're new here, you are just in time because I'm kind of in the middle of a rebranding. I'm going to be talking about the intersectionality of me being corporate America and being a mother, okay? Because I have so much to say about both of those things, and I've been on a hiatus, moving and figuring out some things in my life, and I'm ready to come back and really pour myself into this channel. Like, it is time to stop playing. I'm not even going to wait until January 1st and make it a resolution. No, we're going to start now. So wish me luck. Pray for me, y'all. Okay, let's get started with today's episode. So I'm going to start with a short video, and hopefully YouTube doesn't copyright it. Okay, please, 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 because this is so funny. Let's watch this video and come back.
So we kiss occasionally.
Not occasionally, all the time. Is coming in and saying hello to someone a public display of affection? Is patting somebody on the back for a job well done? Is touching a crotch?
I would say no, yes.
But here's what we are going to do. We're going to designate one of our closets as a hookup zone. No. Anything goes. No. Just leave everything on. Michael, that's absurd. We're going to have 3 closets, one for each base, no homers. Yes? And what is the hookup zone policy on masturbation? Pro. Yes. What? Problem solved. No, it is solved. Does anyone have a problem with that? Yes. Gay closet. 5. That wasn't 5 closets. That wasn't the problem. 3 heavy padding closets, 1 masturbation closet, and 1 gay closet. Absolutely. Yes?
I literally cannot. If you don't watch The Office, you need to. Okay, it is an HR professional's worst nightmare, but this show is so funny. Michael Scott, I don't know how he gets away with half the things he does, because it's a perfect combination of inappropriate, illegal, uncomfortable, awkward, like everything that you could think about and imagine and ponder upon. It happens in The Office, and somehow they get away with it. But you know what? It brings me to a really good point, because that's what we're talking about today. It is company culture. The reason why this debauchery is able to happen in the scene that I just showed you and in that show, The Office, is because there's a company culture of being completely irresponsible, being inappropriate, doing illegal activity, okay, that any HR professional would definitely not condone, but everybody's on board with it. Everybody fits into that culture, and that's why they're able to get away with it. So today we're going to be talking about company culture, because in my opinion, it is the number one determinant. It is the number one factor that's going to let you know if you're going to stay at a company for 30 years or for 3 months. So before we get into today's topic, let me just preface this by saying that in talking about corporate America, I love being in corporate America. I know some people hate it. Some people have a lot to say about it. But for me personally, I love it because of the structure, the predictability, the benefits, the flexibility, and most of all, the opportunities. I feel like having been in corporate America for the past 10 years, I don't really see the end of the runway for opportunities or for the ability to go further, whether it's within the domain you're already in or to pivot to another one. I sincerely, truly do enjoy working in corporate America, and maybe it's because I'm kind of boring in that sense. Like, I like to just kind of know what's going to happen. This is a role I'm signing up for. This is a job that I'm hired to do and get it done. And listen, I may dibble and dabble in other places, but when it comes to peace of mind, I love working in corporate America. And I know not everybody has that, because companies do layoffs all the time and things like that. But luckily, knock on wood, I haven't been a part of that, and I don't pray it upon my worst enemy. It is horrible. But when it comes to day-to-day, being able to really put some structure around your life, I personally I've loved working in corporate America. So let me just preface by saying that, because you're going to start to see like why I give certain pieces of advice, especially in this episode, or for example, when we talk about networking. Like, I like it, so I don't mind telling others to do the same thing. My rings are hitting each other, so sorry about that. But okay, anyways, let's get into why I wanted to talk about company culture and why I think it is the most important thing when it comes to determining if the company is going to be a fit for you in the long term, or if you need to get the hell out of there. A major component of making that decision is compatibility. So like we saw in the video with The Office, the reason why this debauchery is able to take place is because there's compatibility between the fools who are working there and the crazy company culture. And when you think about it, company culture is very closely linked to the mission and the values that the company upholds or tries to brand itself as. So for example, if I say Tesla, you're going to think about innovation and hard work. Everybody knows that Like Elon Musk doesn't really play. Like, you know, everybody has heard of the stories of, I don't know if you guys have or haven't, but like the stories of people sleeping at the office because they're working long hours. They're really putting a heavy emphasis on numbers and metrics and being the best at what they do. And so oftentimes what the founder of the company or what the values and missions of the company are directly linked to the type of culture that they foster for their employees. Another example of a company that has a standard of getting things done, being the best at what they do is Amazon. And when I think about Amazon, I automatically think about impact and high expectations. Like if they say 2-day delivery, you're going to get your 2-day delivery. If they say next day or same day, they're trying to uphold that standard. So you can imagine that might trickle down to the employees where they are held to those same standards and they're expected to deliver those results the same way that at the top level of management, that's what they're striving for. So culture permeates every single part of a company, of an organization, and it can single-handedly determine if you're going to be successful, if you're going to thrive in that role, or if you're going to completely fall apart. And company culture can also determine how successful a company can be. Because, for example, what worked in 1950 is not going to work in 2024. So companies also have to adapt their culture and make sure that they're keeping up with the Joneses, with what employees are looking for. If the workforce that you're in the industry that you're in, people value working from home, they value flexibility. If you are a rigid company that doesn't want to conform or adapt any of those things, you're going to have retention issues. So the same way that employees have to find a way to fit into the company culture, at large, the companies also have to find a way to adapt themselves to the needs of their environment, the people, the world, all those good things. So for the rest of the video, I want to share some experiences that I've had at the 2 companies that I've worked at for the last 10 years, General Electric and Microsoft. So I started my experience in corporate America in 2015 when I graduated. 2014 because I interned. I get so embarrassed when people like see me recording because I'm just like, oh my God. Okay, anyways, so like I was saying, so I officially started my career in 2015 when I graduated and joined GE for their IT leadership program. After that, after 2 years of that, I did their corporate audit staff program for another 2 years. And then I did a vulnerability management, a compliance role in their GE renewable energy. So I had about 5 years experience across different GE businesses. Back then it was the conglomerate that everybody knew it to be. And there was the oil and gas business, the power business, aviation, which is where I started, and renewable energy. So, you know, your typical big company with 300,000 employees, like it was a lot. Okay, so that's where I started my experience. And then for the last 4 years, I've been at Microsoft working in governance, risk, and compliance. So I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about the differences and similarities between GE and Microsoft, and we can spend the rest of the video talking a little bit about how to navigate corporate culture. Like, what are some things you should be looking out for in helping you determine whether you should join a company or whether you should stay at a company if you're already there. So in terms of similarities, the number one thing that I have to say, and I think this is true for any company that you go to, is both companies were very results and impact driven. At the end of the day has to end, and you got to do the job that you were hired to do. So any company that doesn't have a culture of fostering hard work, high expectations, results, and impact, honestly, you might actually need to think about if that's going to be good for your growth if the company doesn't value those things. So from a cultural standpoint, both GE and Microsoft and Amazon and Tesla and any other company in the world, okay, USPS, Dolce & Gabbana, every company that is in the business of making money is going to care about results and impact. So I think that's a good thing. Obviously, if you start a business, you want to make money, and having a culture where everybody understands that just makes your life easier as a company to be successful and pay your employees, okay? Because there's a direct correlation between the performance of the company and the pay of your employees. So everybody has a vested interest in performing well, driving impact, and getting results out there. The other thing that is a similarity between both companies is good benefits. So when I mentioned earlier that I like corporate America, this is one of the reasons why I like corporate America, because I don't want to have to figure out what's my insurance, what's my dental, what's my vision, what's this, what's that. I don't want to do any of that. And one of the perks of working for a company that already has that figured out is you kind of just plug and play into it. So the benefits on both sides, both companies were very, very good, and I'm very thankful. Although I will say Microsoft has been better to me, so I'm glad that I did an upgrade in that sense versus going backwards and losing some benefits. Another similarity is that from a diversity standpoint, both companies honestly had a very diverse set of individuals from the management level down to the individual contributor level. And I really enjoyed that. Did I just say level? I did. Level. I really enjoyed working with people from all across the world, people from different backgrounds. So the diversity of thought was definitely there. And I enjoyed that in a company because I don't want to just work with people who look like me, and I don't want to work with people who I have nothing in common with either. Not just from a identity standpoint, but like life experiences, our desires at the company, where we see ourselves and where we came from. Like all of those things are really important, and making you feel comfortable at a company. Now down to the differences, and the major one is the culture. Like that was the major difference between that, at least I've noticed. So let me tell you why. GE is a very structured, very regulated company. Okay. At the time that I was there, I started with aviation, like I mentioned. I also worked at renewable energy. I worked at oil and gas, digital at the time. I worked across different GE businesses, which were all highly regulated. So it kind of just made sense that the culture of the business would align a little bit more with a highly regulated, more strict environment. That's not to say that the day-to-day job or the people that I was interacting with, that it was very structured or that it was very boring or rigid. People were very nice. People were very cool and everything like that. But from an overall culture standpoint, the rigidness of the industries that they were in, no matter what, however hard they tried, would always kind of come into what we did on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if what I'm explaining makes sense. Whereas, for example, Microsoft, also highly regulated, it's a tech industry, but not as regulated as, for example, the aviation industry with the Federal Aviation Administration. So you kind of just see like, okay, we're starting to talk about privacy laws. We're starting to talk about security and different measures that we need to put into place, but it's not as developed as like FAA. Does that make sense? Another major difference, and this plays into the culture, I'll get into a little bit later on, is my ability to work from home. So as you can see, I guess you can't see, it doesn't really. Anyways, my ability to work from home is much more accepted and much more promoted at Microsoft than it was when I was at GE. Now, again, it might go back to the industry and, especially like if you're going to be working on highly sensitive information, you're not going to be doing that from your couch at home. You need to get into the office, badge in, sign into VPN, do this and do that, and use your smart card, all these different things. So it was going to be a little bit more difficult to work from home. And I noticed that when I was working at GE Aviation specifically. I don't know about the other ones. I'm pretty sure it was very similar. The culture across the different conglomerate was about the same. But like, for example, if somebody was working from home, it was very known like, oh, they're remote. Like it was a thing. You would know who came into the office and who was a remote worker. Whereas at Microsoft, I've been here 4 years and I've been remote the entire time. With the exception of off-sites that I go to in Seattle, I'm always working from home. And I'm actually trying to change that a little bit because we have an office in Atlanta that I want to start going into more. But the cultural difference of the expectation to come into the office is very different, at least from when I compare my experience when I was at GE and today when I'm at Microsoft. So I don't know, GE folks, let me know if it's still the same. But overall, Microsoft, a lot of people are remote, especially after the pandemic, and no one bats an eye. Whereas when I was at GE, if you were remote, it's like, oh, they're remote. Like it was like noted, Overall, there are more similarities and differences that stand out because at the end of the day, they're two big companies with a lot of employees across the world, and it's going to feel very similar. You coming into a corporate environment. If you've ever worked in a corporate environment, like 75% is going to be about the same. Okay, same layout, same structure, all these different things. But that 25%, that's that culture that's different across different organizations. Even if there are similarities, like what you're going to have at Google is going to be different than what you have at Microsoft, going to be different than what you have at Amazon, different than what you have at Oracle. So like, it just depends, and that's the magic sauce to keeping your employees and for you also to determine if you want to stay at a company or if you want to get out of there. So I'm going to help you guys with that next. So in determining if a company's culture is right for you, you want to start, before you even get into like the nitty gritty of it, you want to start at a high level with an understanding that compatibility with company culture requires adjustment and give and take. Okay, you can't come into a company and say, this is who I am, take me as I am. Like, this is not church, okay? You need to fit into the company's culture to be successful there. There are a few exceptions where people literally can stick out like a sore thumb and still be successful. Like, there is a reason why a culture exists, and if you don't fit into that culture, it's going to be hard for you to move on up. It's going to be hard for you to jive with everybody else. So honestly, there's a mindset understanding, like just level set with yourself that you're going to have to give and take when it comes to company culture. So I'll give an example. Okay, I am not the most social person. I'm very reserved. I like to just go to work, get my job done, and come home. Okay. But I know that if I want to work and be successful in corporate America, I'm going to have to step outside of my comfort zone every now and then. I'm going to have to attend a happy hour, even if I don't really feel like it. I'm going to have to network and really make a concerted effort to insert myself into the company versus just coming in, doing my job, and going home. Like, you can do that, but you're not going to excel. You're not going to get anything above like an average, like work performance evaluation. You're not going to get the opportunity to work on stretch projects. You're not going to get the opportunity to go to conferences. Like, if you do the bare minimum, you will get bare minimum results. And if you're fine with that, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to excel, if you want to climb the corporate ladder, if you want to do something different, have different opportunities be presented to you, you're going to have to go the extra mile a little bit. And that extra mile can be like a very big reach, or it can be like a little something here and there to just raise up your experience at corporate America. But if you come in with the expectation that the company needs to bend to your needs and your will, and you're at HR's door every 2 hours saying, I need this, I need that, you're not going to last long. Okay? You're just not. And conversely, companies also need to be pulsing their employees and asking, hey, what can we be doing better? How can we make you more successful? How can we make you more productive? And that way they can adapt their culture to the needs of the environment, the industry, the employees, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a give and take. It's bi-directional. No one should come in expecting the company to completely morph itself to adapt to their needs, and neither should the company expect to just stay rigid with their culture if the trends or the industry is asking for something different. That being said, here are some things that can help you evaluate if a company's culture is right for you. So if you're in the interview process, the minimum that you need to do is just ask about the company culture. When they say, do you have any questions? The answer is never no. You're bound to have questions if you're truly interested in the role. But if all else fails and you don't know what to ask about the company culture. Ask what the people who work there feel. How do they like it? What are some things that they wish could be better? What were their last, like at Microsoft, they call them employee signals, but like their last surveys of their employees. Like, what did they learn? What do they have on the docket to make better when it comes to culture? So there's a lot that you can ask about when it comes to company culture, and you should take that opportunity during the interview to do it. If you're already in the role, okay, whether you're new or a couple months in, whatever, here are some things that you need to do to evaluate company culture and then make a decision. Whether it's your team, whether it's your organization, whether it's your region, whether it's the company at large, you need to look at what is being incentivized and what is being discouraged, because that's going to tell you what the company culture, like what the company culture is. So for example, are people encouraged to take time off? I have a perfect example. Today, we came back from the Thanksgiving holiday. We know that we have a couple weeks before the Christmas holiday, and my manager was already asking people, like, what are your plans for the holidays? I hope you guys are getting ready to put that on the calendar. Like, make sure you're taking your time off. Like, that is a good culture, because there's an expectation that you're not supposed to just work yourself down to the bone and not take any time off. So really look at, are people encouraged to take time off? Or if they take time off, are people like, again, oh my God, you're always out. You don't, like, no. Okay, that is a big part of company culture. You don't want to be judged for taking time off, especially if it's like in the handbook, if it's in your contract. Like, take your time off. Okay. Anyways, are people asked to stay late often? Now, we all know every now and then you might have a project, you got to put in a little bit more time, you got to put in more hours, etc., etc. But if you're being asked to stay and work late a lot, that's part of the company culture. They assume you don't have a life outside of work. You don't have a problem staying. And the people who say no often, keep an eye on that. They're probably not going to get promoted. So what's being rewarded? What's being incentivized? Do people get judged if they have to leave work early to pick up their kids? If you have a company full of young college grads who don't have families, then maybe the culture is going to be a little bit different, understandably, than if you have a company with people from all different age ranges, and some folks have kids to pick up and they got to go when it's time to go because they don't have anybody, so how does a company handle that? This one is very important. Are the employees compensated well? That's part of company culture. It is, because you see some companies make a ton of money, like their bottom line, they make a lot of money, but they don't reward their employees. So it's not just about the salaries. That's very important. So make sure that you are being compensated well, but it's about, do they have dividends? Do they have, if they have a good year, do they give nice bonuses out? Are they giving stock options? These are important components of company culture that often get overlooked, because some people think that as long as you're getting paid well, that's enough. But if your management, if your leadership, if your company doesn't have a spirit of giving back, that's part of the company culture. May or may not be important to you, but it's good to know. This one is also very important. Are people encouraged to ask questions during meetings? It may seem trivial, especially if you are, an expert at what you do. But if somebody is new, are they encouraged to ask questions? Is there a spirit of curiosity that's fostered? Also important. Is there a spirit of transparency? How important is learning and development there? Especially if you want to climb the corporate ladder, or if you're looking for that next role. Is learning and development a big deal, or are people shrugging it off as not a big deal? And I just had to throw this in because I worked at GE before, and I'm so glad this wasn't around when I was there. But the last question that I have is, do they take the Jack Welch approach of firing the bottom 10%? I can't imagine if I was working at GE while they were doing this, because my anxiety would have been up here. But yes, okay, when Jack Welch was CEO, he had this approach of every single year, okay, the bottom 10% had to go. Can you imagine the company culture? Some people thrive in those environments because they know they'll never be at the bottom 10%. Okay, others who struggle or maybe are in performance improvement plans, which I'll talk about in another episode, like I can't imagine just having an entirely bad year. Like your whole year is bad because you're on a PIP and you know that you're probably going to get fired unless you literally work yourself to the bone. Company culture matters, guys. Company culture matters, and it's what management decides. It's what the industry decides. It's what you decide to contribute to the company culture as well, because you can contribute to the company culture. So I cannot stress enough how important company culture is. I'm going to say it again. Company culture, company culture, company culture. It is so, so, so important. It is the difference between a promotion and that performance improvement plan that I just mentioned. Like, it is pivotal. So that's what I had for you guys today in terms of company culture. I feel like I've said it so many times, but I really would love to hear your guys' opinions and your experiences. If you have dealt with great company culture, or if you've been in a company that you're just like, oh no, I got to get the hell up out of here, because it happens. Okay, sometimes you join a company and like I have one last example. When I was in college, I interned. No, did I intern or did I just interview? I think I just interviewed. Okay? I just interviewed at Smucker's. And I remember, I don't know, I was only there for like a day, okay? But it felt so happy-go-lucky. It felt so happy and just like, oh, we have peanut butter here and carnation milk here and jelly there. You want to make a sandwich? Like, everybody was so damn happy at this company. I was like, if nothing else, okay, the company culture looks like it would be very happy and very good for my mental health. Okay. Anyways, last example. But what do you guys think about company culture? Like, is it a big deal for you when it comes to deciding if you're going to take on a role or stay at a company or leave a company? Like, what is your take on company culture, and what are some experiences that you would like to share in the comments? Make sure you drop them down below. That's all I had. Yes, company culture. That is the message of the day. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.